Yo, greetings and welcome. Pod Stew number 9. My name's Jeff. We're going to go over what happened in the podcast world last week. Seems to be a lot of duality talk. What's real, what isn't real. I'm usually caught in the middle of that somewhere. And the homie Chewy, shout out to the subscriber Chewy, he mentioned something about a guru, and it kind of made me think that usually I aim to make people laugh, and I'm pretty good at it in real life, but then when I sit down to work, whether it's this or music, it usually turns out into something serious. So I started kind of thinking about why that was, and one of the conclusions that I came to is that I probably use humor in real life as a defense mechanism. You know what I mean? And, age old tale, you use it to protect yourself, because if they're laughing, they're not really asking who you are. Right. And then when I sit down to work, I feel like it's almost like a waste of time not to impart, at least a little bit of knowledge or insight that I might have and try to help somebody out. So, in keeping with that, got to talk about some allegations against one of my favorite podcast hosts. And I really wasn't going to talk about it, but I've been seeing it pop up online, some opinions, and, I know it's all fun and games, but there's rules, and we have to abide by those rules. So I've compiled a little evidence, and I'm really not sure if I'm even right in feeling this way, but if it is true, then there should be some consequences. Everybody knows that you can only use one hand in Jenga, but here I have 5 different occasions where the homie Stevie Weeby used 2 hands.
I'm gonna raise that up. Mr. Toe Jenga.
Your turn.
Okay. We have to factor in, this is not the most level.
Mr. Toe Jenga. Toe Jenga.
Go ahead. Oh, God, thank you.
So, there you have it. That's the evidence. The rules are clearly stated. But, you guys let me know what you think. Is this worth disqualifying him for it? I don't know. Let's see what else we got.
I guess apologies are fine. I'm not going to knock it, but I think when a comic makes a joke and it's a clear joke that was a miss, just fucking live and die by it. And if it was incredibly tasteless, then maybe you should apologize.
Sure.
But you don't have to grovel though. Like the groveling thing, it's like, it's a bit much, because sometimes I get scared where.
Well, then you are giving the control over to the audience at that point. It's kind of the thing where when you're doing stand-up, if the audience senses that you think that the joke that you made was in poor taste, they're looking for your weakness now.
Yeah.
Now they're looking to be like, oh, is he going to apologize? Or is he going to double down and stand by it? 99.9% of the time, the funnier move is to double down and own it.
Yeah, and we're not talking about like Kramer situations,
no,
right?
No.
We're not going to categorize us in that.
No.
But if it was like a joke that didn't go over well, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
And they'll take it out of their set, and they're kind of working it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it gets kind of, sometimes when I go to like stand-up comedy clubs, because I'm there to just laugh my ass off, and I see like a young comic, and you could tell they're teetering the SJW line too much. It's like, you're not even saying anything, dude. Just get off stage.
God, I hate that. That was David So on episode 191 of Jeremiah Wonders. And let's just keep it moving.
So we're in Florida.
Bert Kreischer on King and the Sting this week. That was a cool surprise.
And we're looking for shells, and we can't find any good shells. And my girls are very young, and I decided to go to the store and buy some high-end shells and plant them around the beach for them. Dad move.
Super daddy move.
Super dad move. And watch the look on my daughter's faces when they find a shell. Hit play.
Yo, I found a T-Rex too.
Look at my daughter. Watch.
Right here. Ready?
I put the shell under my foot.
No wonder, I'll hold your hand. Go.
And then I'm like, I think I found it. Now watch the look on my daughter's faces when they come up with a shell.
Here. Did you get it? Oh my goodness. Look at that.
Whoa! Where's my cow?
Oh my God, I feel another one.
I want it!
Hold on.
I want it. I want it.
It's almost under my foot, George. George, can you dive down?
I'm not good at diving.
You ready?
I'm not good at
Go down
I miss
together.
this little girl.
Okay, go.
God.
They grow
Two,
up fast.
Oh.
Yeah.
3.
Dude.
Let's hold my hand.
Watch the look at her face.
Did you get it? Get it? Oh!
Whoa!
Let me see.
What
Identical.
kind of animal lives in that?
They're identical.
Do the exact same.
They only had 2 different.
They got away!
Oh, I'll go get it.
How old are they now?
You stay there. You stay there.
17 and 15.
Fuck,
Wow,
dude.
That's what my oldest 2 are 17 and 15 too, and I did something similar. I did we watched this was years ago. We watched like the whole series, like the Wonder Years series, and then afterwards I pulled up a bunch of fake articles saying that he was Marilyn Manson, and I actually never told him. So if they watch this will be when they find out that Paul from the Wonder Years is not actually Marilyn Manson. Although it hasn't been proven, I don't know. It could be true. But so he goes on to tell, you know, kind of like the effect that it had on them later on in life.
Look at that.
Oh,
Look at
damn.
that dad shit right there.
That's dad move. Ultimate dad move.
It's the same exact shell.
Yeah, don't you wish you could freeze them at this age? Like, at my son's 1.5 now, he's the cutest fucking thing in the world.
You're good. You're good. And so what I did
I just
is
wanna freeze
I
him.
then planted. Well, you know what?
I want to freeze them.
You know what?
Not in a weird way, but like,
It's. I wish I could. It breaks. It like. I had a big award thing in Hollywood for.
was that the improv?
Yeah,
I get the email for it. Yeah.
For Variety, and I had my daughters come because we're doing a big Q&A, and I thanked everyone, and then I got to thank my daughters, and you just think of, like, you know, the amount of time we spend on the road as comics, and it's work, but today is work, and everything's work, but you
It's
get
a struggle because you miss some shit.
yeah, and you also your work is attached to your dream. Like, your dream is to be able to sell tickets and be able to do bigger venues and get a Netflix special. All the things that you're attached to, they're dreams. It's also a job, but it's it's like a goal. And a lot of times your family ultimately, I'll speak
Pays
for
the
myself,
price.
pays the price, and
They're the ones that pay the price.
yeah. And so to go back, I go back and I get very emotional when I think of, like, I should have just canceled the Cincinnati Funny Bone and spent more time with them at the beach.
Yep.
Because the way my brain worked, and it was because I was broke and I was panicking, and I would go to the beach. We'd go to Florida, and I'd say, all right, Dad can be there Monday or Tuesday. I'll fly in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm leaving Thursday to go do press, and I'll be gone for the weekend, and I'll come back. And so they spent, a week at the beach. I only spent 3 days with them at the beach. So I think that was partly to blame for me going, they're not finding any shells. Fuck it. Let's make this speed up. Dad's got to leave on Wednesday. Let's go to the store, buy fucking $50 worth of shells, plant them all over the beach, and then watch them get shells.
Yep.
And then one day they're at a fucking slumber party, and their friends are like, hey, did you ever see what your dad did with that shell thing?
Yeah.
And you're like, huh? And then your daughter, they play it at a slumber party, and your daughter sees it and then calls you, and you're about to go on stage at the West Palm Improv. And she goes, hey. I go, what's up? She goes, I just saw that shell video. And I was like, because you post it when they don't have YouTube. And you're like, yeah. And she's like, why would you do that? And you're like,
so you had a great ass time with Dad.
Like, and she's like, it was a lie. And you're like,
I mean, take it easy.
yeah. And then you go up on stage and light up a few Puerto Rican chicks. Spend the night at a strip club talking to strippers going, so what did your dad do wrong?
Oh, man. Yeah, that was a roller coaster. The other cool thing is he talked about Theo a lot on here and about how he's such a good writer. And another couple of my favorite writers, Open Mike Eagle and LP, were talking about probably my favorite writer of all time, which is MF Doom, and the effects that they had on their lives.
When I got the news too, man, I had to send an email to somebody who I know would actually know. Like, I needed a confirmation.
Right.
Because, you know what I'm saying? Because you're saying, like, it's not above him. He didn't seem to be above some mass trickeration.
Nah, he was
on that level.
He was on some Andy Kaufman shit. Like he was on some rap Andy Kaufman shit. Like,
actually, that reminds me, I bought tickets to this festival called 3 Points in Miami because he was going to be performing there with Ghostface Killah. And we get to the stage ready for the show. Ghostface comes out, and then it turns out to be Doom via satellite. So they put a screen up, and probably it was a pre-recorded video or whatever, but it was a one-off though. It was definitely like for that show. But man, I was hella mad. And then, now I feel like I got caught up in one of those Doom poster experiences, which is kind of a cool story. You know what I mean? But Doom forever, rest in peace.
You're talking about a guy who would send out people in his mask to do shows. Man. Like, and I remember people being mad at it at the time, and me understanding, like, okay, I get why you'd be mad, but at the same time, can we just step back here and look? You know what I mean? Can we just step back and just assume that it's 2 or 3 years have gone by, maybe even a decade has gone by, and you're over, you're hurt, and then can you just look at it historically and just admit that that's the illest shit in the world? You know, like, come on, man. Legendary. Like, legendary. It was immediately legendary.
Well, yeah, I was at one of those shows. I was at one in Cali, where it was a Doom poster.
Right.
And just because I'd seen him once in real life, like, I knew immediately, like, oh, we got. And it did hurt, man. It was like a New Year's Eve show out here in LA. It was like a really, really big deal. And everybody was pissed. And I had that moment of like, damn, I'm legit mad at dude for like not thinking that, that we're important to show up for or whatever. Right. But this is before I knew the circumstances or before anything. And I went from being that mad to like, it wasn't too long later. I'm right back into, this is my favorite dude.
Yeah. It's a severe blow to the music world. That's how I look at it, man. I'm affected, and I didn't even really know him like that. I just know him. You know what I mean? Like, I could only imagine that there are some really broken hearts out there. But for the music world, it is legitimately a huge loss for the writing world. And I don't just mean the rap world, and I don't just mean lyric writing. I mean, like, human writing. Like, the world lost an important writer. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Doom. You guys check out Open Mike Eagle's podcast, What Had Happened Was. Secret Skin used to be one of my favorite listens, and I'm happy he's doing this again. And check out everything on Stony Island Pod. Next is George Perez Stories 232. And this is Russell Peters' manager talking about when he was flying a drone over narco territory.
Hey, the drone is what got me in trouble just a couple months ago. So I go to Mexico a lot, visit family and shit, and I'm gonna show you this, George. There's a lot of narco activity going on in Mexico, obviously, and it's crazy in any pueblo you're in. And there were some fires just outside of the pueblo. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Yo de metiche, I'm flying my drone, finding out, like, what the fuck is this shit? Look at that. It's like 6 piles of fire.
Are they burning coke houses or?
Burning maybe. When I showed my uncle, he's like, it's probably plastics from making drugs, like all the leftover waste that they're burning off. So you see the Pueblo small at the top of the video. You see the Pueblo there.
Where is this?
It's on the side of the carretera. It's in Jalisco.
Oh.
And that's the main cartel now, is the Nueva Generación, whatever they're called.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, Jalisco cartel, they're huge. And I'm like, let's see what the hell's going on. She's like, dude, no, it might be the narcos. Nothing's going to happen. Flying the drone and...
a high-tech drone, right?
Yeah, and it's loud and it's quiet out there.
No way.
But when, it makes noise. But once you're high up enough, you can't hear it. And if they got music going on, you're not going to hear it. But when you're recording, the lights are off on the drone. So at night, you can't see it. But when you stop recording, when I was bringing it back to the car, the lights were on, and out of nowhere, gunshots start shooting at my drone, bro. And I'm not talking about blah, blah. I'm talking about fucking machine guns shooting at my fucking drone.
And is it nighttime now?
It's nighttime. It's like midnight, 1 a.m. I get back into the pueblo. We pull over to the side of like the liquor store, and I'm slowly bringing it back, right? And I got the remote, and I'm slowly bringing it back. I land it. She's like, put it in the trunk, delete whatever you fucking recorded. They're going to ask. They're going to come into the town and ask around. And how many people got drones in the fucking pueblo?
Yeah.
Nobody. Like the people I was telling before that hour passed, they're like, they're going to find you. Just tell them the truth. And they get to my uncle's house, and ¿dónde está Eddie? Está aquí. And I was like, aquí estoy. Only one guy didn't have a mask. And that guy was like, hey, ven con nosotros. They put me in the truck.
What do you mean mask? Like the fucking...
yeah, the hose and the like scullies. Walkie-talkies on their shoulders. They look like fucking cops almost, man.
Sicarios.
Yeah, and they put me in a truck, you know, bench seat. So driver, me in the middle, guy next to me, two guys in the back.
Hold on, well, you just went?
Everyone told me go.
I would have been like, can I see someone's badge, please? Can I get your badge?
I knew who they fucking were at that point.
We're gonna stick with the drug. Fuck. That's dope. I just got a text message. One of our buddies, Bobby Caldwell, he's serving some years in prison, and he does a podcast from there. And he's actually doing one with Doug Stanhope, comic and convict. And we made him some intro and outro music, so they're going to be using that. That's kind of cool. Be safe. Never fly your drone over narco territory. We're going to stick with the drug theme and go over here to What's Up Fool podcast, number 353. Toby Hicks is talking about his PCP surprise birthday.
A lot of PCP, bro. A lot. Like, this guy was always on PCP, and they call him Radar. And that fool he'd be like standing like this, bro, like a Cholo Waku. Are you okay? Are you okay, Radar? Are you okay? And that fool be all cooled out like this.
We call Radar because he could hoop. He could shoot, so that's why he was a Radar.
This fool Radar because he was on PCP, bro. He was hearing shit. What? Like a Radar, bro.
Hey, ¿qué pasa?
For real, dog.
What's going on in that house?
Wow.
PCP wasn't big when I was in high school. It was all crystal meth.
Yeah.
All the gangsters and cholos, they used to just do crystal meth.
I smoked that shit for about 6 months, and I said, man, I ain't never smoking that shit again.
People lost.
Luckily, I never got too high.
Yeah.
I mean, because I knew the effects of it. And the reason why I knew the effects is because this is when I first moved to Cali in Nebraska. Nobody was smoking PCP. So I moved to Cali and PCP's prevalent. I'll never forget this shit. One time, it was my birthday. And I'm living in San Diego. I think I'm like 19. So me and my relative riding down the street, and we see one of his homeboys. And we pull over, and he goes, yo, man, his homeboy goes, yo, man, what y'all doing? And my relative said, oh, man, it's T's birthday. We just rolling around getting fucked up. And his homie said, oh, man, I was about to smoke this, but it's T's birthday. Let's smoke this motherfucker. So he hopped in the car with us. And now we rolling. And we smoking, he hitting it. And see, I know how powerful it was, so I hit it lightly. I got a little buzz.
Gotta get that threshold.
And I was high as fuck, and it was like, this was the middle of the day. Everything went dark. It was like it was nighttime. So now my relative driving, he's high, but A-Fray he's in the back. He's really high because he's hitting it. He ain't driving. He ain't thinking, and he's the one who regularly smokes that shit. So then we like, man, we so high, we had to get off the streets. And this, now, mind you, this is the middle of the day. So we go to my crib. At this time, I'm going to college. I got a roommate or whatever. So we go to my crib just to get off the street because we high on PCP. I stick my key in the door. I open up the door. About 40 people yell, happy birthday! Bro, and we are so high. April, he was walking like he was, like he was on the moon. And then my roommate told Adrian, he said, yo, man, he said, have a seat, brother. And April didn't sit on the couch. He slid down the wall and sat on the floor. Damn. We was that high. And this girl that I was messing with at the time, she was there. She started crying.
Who planned this shit, dude?
She was like, no, my roommate had a surprise party for me. He didn't know I was going to smoke some PCP.
PCP party planner. Bro, I think out of all the drugs, PCP would be the worst to walk in on a surprise birthday party with. Seems very unmanageable. Oh, you know who was all over the place this week? Shout out to Chewy too for mentioning it. Is Miss Pat, your favorite ex dope dealer, and she was on she was a bunch of places. She was on Whiskey Ginger 147, and here they are talking about why she doesn't drink.
But what is that, by the way? What, like, never once have you never gotten drunk your whole life?
I think I've been drunk once.
In 50 years?
Yeah. I don't do alcohol.
And now, what was there a reason for it?
Olive Garden wine.
You Olive Garden wine?
Yeah. They
like,
sell it at the liquor store for $9.
Really?
Olive Garden said you bought it for $25. So I was like, fuck that shit. I'm going to the liquor store.
For real.
So that's all I drink.
Just to get Olive Garden wine.
And when I want to go to sleep, I drink a little glass of wine, but I don't drink.
Why did you stay away from it? Is it something in your family, your past, or is it just like
my
no?
mom was an alcoholic?
Okay, there.
And just never been my thing.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid. It's called a DARE program now.
Oh yeah.
But it wasn't called a DARE program when I was a kid. I forgot what it was called. What was that fucking bear?
Smokey the Bear?
Yeah. Who told you not to do drugs?
No. Smokey the Bear said no forest fires.
No. Who was that? No, you're right. No forest fire. They had some character like the DARE program. I can't remember what it was.
Who told us not to do drugs?
This is one of those podcast moments where I'm yelling at the TV screen, and I'm almost positive she has to be talking about McGruff, the crime dog. I don't know if you guys remember him. If you grew up in the 80s, you remember McGruff, the crime dog. Here he is doing a song about crack and cocaine. And here he is pictured with probably the guy that was bringing it into the country.
Using crack and cocaine to get high, that's what you say you love. But it's really insane, you could die. What are you thinking of? 'Cause nobody's needing that crack and cocaine.
Another bop he had was this one about inhalants.
Learn a lesson so true. There's danger in inhalants. They can break you in two. So never sniff inhalants.
So, was it real or wasn't? McGruff, the crime dog actor, sentenced to 16 years in prison. McGruff, the crime dog, has fallen on hard times. Actor John Morales, who dressed as the famous Bloodhound, known for take a bite out of crime, has been sentenced to 16 years in prison. This fool put a guilty plea in for 1,000 marijuana plants, 27 weapons, including a grenade launcher, 9,000 rounds of ammunition. He was arrested when Galveston police and their drug-sniffing dogs pulled him over for speeding. The McGruff actor had 2 indoor pot-growing operation diagrams sitting right on his front passenger seat, and marijuana plant seeds stored in the trunk of his car. Now, this is from 2014. Obviously, weed is legal now. But, man, you know, who are these people? So, yeah, that's who Miss Pat was talking about. And I'm sure, you know, maybe that contributed to all of our lives. I'm certain it did.
Cause inhalants kill.
So I learned that when I was in elementary school, and my mama just did it so like she did everything like a boy. Like you'd have thought my mama was a lesbian. Like she smoked a cigarette, she just hold it like a old damn dude on a cigarette on the corner. She didn't drink out of a glass. She always drank out of the quart bottle.
Right out of the bottle.
Out of the bottle. She
Right.
drank her gin and juice. She fucking mixed it and drank it out of the bottle. And I was like, ah. And I remember she used to watch The Young and the Restless, and she would smoke cigarettes. And at the time, they used to smoke cigarettes on TV. And they was put the little tip on the end.
Mm-hmm.
And my mama just smoked her like a man. And she never carried a purse. She carried a wallet, a man wallet in her back pocket. But I guarantee you, when she opened that bitch up, everything you had everything I had in my purse, you had in that wallet. Tampons, your birth certificate, ID. And I'm like, I don't want to do nothing she fucking do.
Right. It was just you wanted to be different than moms. That's what it was.
So my sister picked up alcohol. I didn't pick up alcohol and drugs.
Do you have any vice?
Any advice?
No, do you have any vices like liquor or like gambling?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A is your vice.
Yeah.
Word. Yeah. Those spicy chickens. That's good stuff. And the service is unparalleled. Yeah, shout out to Miss Pat. She's doing well. She got a show coming out, and she's everywhere, all over podcasts. If you watch a podcast, you probably saw her this week. Another one of my favorite podcasts is Hotboxing with Mike Tyson. And he had Wayne Brady on, and towards the end of it, Mike loves his psychedelics. So he was trying to kind of, guide Wayne Brady into maybe trying some out.
No, but it's funny that we're having this talk because we didn't even talk before the show, but I've had this recommended to me as a means of unlocking and using it in a therapeutic fashion. And I was very much on the fence because, I've been programmed to, no, I'm not going to do some shit like that, blah, blah, blah.
You have to understand what you're told, right? It's going to give you understanding what it's like to be the great one, the universe. You're going to feel it. You're going to know you're part of everything. Every person, every race, every animal, every tree, every grass, every shithole, every dump waste. With the beauty and the so-called ugly. But God made it all so it can't be ugly. It's just a limited understanding of it,
I love hearing Mike talk. He's just a blessing to us all. And here is Mind Under Matter, episode 19. And they're talking about connection and love kind of from a scientific vantage point.
With psilocybin in particular, doesn't it make a lot of just more neurons connect? So you're just experiencing this, not overload, but way more load than normal of interconnectivity. So like seemingly unrelated ideas then can get together and like, oh, that never occurred to me that those are the same thing. And I was doing that because this year, 5-year-old me was thinking of, and so on.
Until you smell pride. and see the color of discomfort. Sometimes it's just hard to make the connections that you needed to.
Yeah. Do you ever think about like what would it be like to have maximum neural connectivity in your brain and you think that you're God, but really it's just all going on here and it's just all firing off?
Well, think about it. Everyone's report is, it's all so connected. Mm-hmm. And I get it. It's just universal love, which love is also just from my point of view, and we've talked about before, an evolved indicator of connection. It's a commitment to a connection that was before there was lawyers or whatever else. You'd feel this like undeniable feeling of love that you couldn't break yourself free of. So even if there was like a more attractive or smarter mate or friend or whatever else, you don't have to waste your time looking around constantly trying to upgrade this much because you have formed this bond.
But check this out, like not even in it's easy to, and I know you're not saying it like this, but before we even get there, like the only framing it in terms of, and like multicellular animals, because it goes beyond even multicellular animals, single-celled animals. There's tight bonds between just the atoms. There's tight bonds like at the smallest level. So one could interpret love as not just the oxytocin thing. One could interpret it as like taking the offense against entropy. It's like it's sticking it to entropy's face. Like we're going to build higher forms of connection, higher forms of, bonds, complexity, as opposed to just random information that's just like, okay, random information, who cares? None of it connects. But then it's like, okay, we're going to build this connection. You and me, we're in this for good. Other proton, oh, let's get this neutron in here with us. Oh, let's bond with this. Let's form these things. And then so on the higher philosophical level, love is the offense against entropy.
I think that would be a great piece of art or something for this. Taking the offense against entropy. Maybe it doesn't have to do with the whole episode, but damn, that's a good quote. Taking the offense against entropy is, that's a
entropy
really
is
smart,
a ruthless
interesting way.
motherfucker. It doesn't care if it's your daughter or your uncle or your daughter's uncle, which is your brother.
It doesn't.
It doesn't care. It's still going to take.
It's not personal either. It's not personal either.
Yeah.
It's not trying to tear you to shreds. It's just doing its thing.
Yeah, because if it was personal, at least maybe you could appeal to it somehow, but it's so impersonal. It's just this not even machine. It's the thing that tears machines down. It's the thing that rusts machines and makes it back into random bits of information. And I like to frame it as there's no highest level of complexity, but there is a lowest level of chaos. Like you can get to where it's pure randomness and nothing means anything and there's blank, but there's no like maximum future. I feel like you can always get more complex, more complex, more complex. There's no end to the decimal point of complexity.
Yeah. It's infinite love, kids. And here's Mike Tyson expounding on that theory.
Once your ego died, you don't know what you don't know your fate, you don't know you're so scared, oh God. And plus, under the toad, it's gonna feel like all your secrets that if they knew they wouldn't be my friend, the feeling of it being exposed.
It's like
Can you
it
imagine that?
strips you.
If they hear, if I let them know this, they gonna look at me different. It won't explode, but the feeling that you will have that everyone knows. It gives you your weakest and your strongest moments, and at the end of the game,
It's
it
like-
tells you you're God.
Would it be like this too, Mike? It's almost like it strips you naked and it teaches you like naked, like, you know what I'm saying? Like strips you naked, like you're there, like you're exposed.
Raw.
But it's so beautiful, man, because you're saying like, oh my God, I did this, and that. It's like,
It's all
but then you go
beautiful.
back and you look at the people that probably hurt you, you're like, this, and that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a trip. It's you reach a level of emotion where it's like hate and love and everything in between, how beautiful everything is.
And
You
all this
find
in
out
20
how
minutes.
All this,
And
all this in 20.
You find out the beauty of death as well.
In what way?
Because how could death not be beautiful if life is beautiful? What would the two exist for? You think God made life beautiful, then he's going to make death not as equally beautiful? This is what Buddha existence was. Because he didn't understand people applying self-suffering. Suffering is just, that's not made for us. Humans are not supposed to suffer. You know, God didn't make anything here for us to suffer, but we put self-suffering. We want to, I don't know, we're sociopaths. We're, that's another word. What's that word when you like masochistic?
Mm-hmm.
Most of us are like masochists. We like to feel pain. We want to take the poison and wait for you to die. You know, that's just some mentalities that we have out here. Some people just in love, and there's so much in love, they want to have a suicide pact with their mate.
I don't love you that much.
Hey. No, it's not that you don't love her that much. It's just that your understanding of love is limited at that level.
Well, it's skewed, yeah.
Yeah, at that level, but it just keeps going. It's just, even myself at a certain level, hey, nigga, chill. And it keeps going for people who have different thoughts and passions about love.
Man, he's the champ for a reason. Let's see what Mind Under Matter has to say.
So the idea is that you're...
Oh, he's talking about a syndrome where people will go into a coma and then people that they should know, their parents and that sort of thing, they think that they're imposters and they're actually like people like that look like them and sound like them, but they're trained actors and they're trying to get them. So that being like the complete opposite of that connection that you feel like when you're under psychedelics, apparently.
between the part of the brain that gets information to the amygdala and the parts that process emotion has been severed. So you see your parents, you don't feel the normal emotion, whether subconscious or not, whether good or not, hatred, love, whatever it might be toward your parents, even on a subtle level, you still feel it subconsciously. And so when you feel nothing, when you see these people, that makes no sense based on all of your past experience in life. And so your brain comes up with this idea that these people are imposters. That's how your brain rectifies this, much like the car sickness thing that we talked about earlier. It comes up with a wild guess as an idea why something like this would happen. With that, to us, seems very peculiar. To the brain is trying to take a best guess at understanding an odd situation that it wasn't prepared for. Now, take that with psychedelics, where psychedelics make more connections, and I think just the opposite happens.
Everyone is my family.
Everything's your family. The trees are your family. The planet, Mother Nature, Father Time, and just we're all so connected. And trees, and there's no separation. I love everything, and we're all love, and all of that. And that's a wonderful thing to experience, way better than thinking your actual parents are actors that deceived you with plastic surgery and acting classes. But it's still not necessarily in line with reality.
No, it's not a place you want to visit.
I hear that, brother. Here's Rabbi Mordecai Finley on the Aubrey Marcus podcast, kind of wrapping it all up with a bow here.
And there's another interesting thing that's there, because in some ways you can say God is everything. God is all things. There is no thing other than God. God loves all things. But that only works in one specific, understanding of dimensionality. Like we have to translate that all the way down to the 3D. And in the 3D, there's things that are far more in divine accord, like the principles of liberty, like the principles of freedom. And so there needs to be a translation of like, what are the principles that we can actually live by? Because it's not really helpful to say all is God and God loves everything. Well, okay, great. That's good to know. But punching somebody is not as nice as hugging them. Like clearly, like the divine is far more in the process of hugging than striking for no reason or whatever, because ultimately, to do that, you're in the delusion that somebody is truly separate from you or not as real or deserving of this. So it's very difficult to be in the presence of the divine and doing one of these things, like enslaving somebody, like, manipulating them or hurting them in some way. So there's this important translation from this kind of unicity consciousness down to, all right, what are some ways in which some guidelines that we can understand how to live our life in divine accord?
Very well put. So you might say there are levels of consciousness, and every level of consciousness is tuning into a different level of reality. So one level of consciousness is the consciousness that all is God, and our souls are connected to the soul of the universe. That is one level of consciousness. But then the further down you go, you realize, well, there are evil people, and there are destructive tendencies in every human being. So they don't deny each other. It's where you're tuning in. So one part of my day, I might tune into the fullness of the divine presence. Another part of my day, I might tune into the reality of human evil. Another part of my day might be tuned into the destructiveness of my own nature. And they're all real. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
So when people say, well, which level of consciousness? I said, well, which level of consciousness is required right now?
Right.
So if right now what's required is helping somebody overcome their destructive inner forces, that's the reality I'm living in when I'm working with myself. It's another kind of reality I'm living in. So you have to tune your consciousness to what the present requires of you.
I think a lot of times this creates what seems like a paradox, but it's only a paradox because you're speaking about different levels of consciousness, and those different levels of consciousness have different understandings that actually make sense. So there can be something that's inherently paradoxical,
Mm-hmm.
like saying, God isn't in the pyramids and doesn't love the pharaohs and these things. Well, okay, yes, on this level of consciousness, absolutely true, because they're out of divine accord. They're not in the essence and presence of the divine as they're doing these things. However, in another level, of course, they are, right? So it creates this interesting paradox that actually dissolves when you start to separate them by, okay, just which level of consciousness are we talking about, which takes a little bit of precision in your understanding.
Precisely. And so I've had friends who are more into the God is all. And the interesting thing is they're very dogmatic about it, and I would say, hey man, let's loosen up here.
Yeah.
I understand that God is all, but there's also evil, and pyramids are beautiful and they were built by slaves.
Yeah.
So both are true. They're beautiful and slaves built them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's figure out what we're talking about. Are we talking about the beauty of geometric forms? I'm all over that. Study Pythagoras and the beauty of sacred geometry. I can talk about that. And then we'll talk about human subjugation. It's just two different conversations and they don't exclude each other. So oftentimes when I'm talking to somebody, I say, which level of consciousness are we on? Because we don't need to argue about which level of consciousness is like the right one, because I think they're all tapped into some level of reality. So I just want to know, what are we talking about? Right. Let's talk about that.
Right.
And not say, well, my level is better than your level.
That's it. Just let me know what we're talking about. Keep it real. Keep it funky. And here is one of the greatest rappers ever made, Flavor Flav. He's on episode 69 of Steve-O's Wild Ride, talking some heavy materials.
There's no better time than now, because now is all we got. Now is the only time that we have.
Right.
And the only thing that we have to look forward to are moments that's ahead of us. Anything that happened in the past, it's behind us.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that's behind us that can't help tomorrow. But we got to remember, yesterday is responsible for today.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of things that we can learn today that can help us tomorrow.
I love it, man.
He wears the clock for a reason, y'all. He talks a lot about how he started drinking and drugging pretty early. This is a real good conversation. These are two legends in the game, And another dude that started real early is Lil Mouse, King of Drill, which is what he's calling himself now. And he was on No Jumper. And 6ix9ine also made a podcast appearance too. So I kind of wanted to show the juxtaposition of how, a young kid like this could come out and survive in Chicago of all places. And I think that's kind of illustrated by this little clip here.
And was your dad in the streets, or was this kind of a freak situation?
Yeah, I ain't gonna really speak on that. I don't want to speak.
Were you actually doing all the stuff that was in that song? Because you're talking
I
about
don't
popping
wanna
pills and shit. You're 13. I'm like, bro, this is crazy. When I look back at it now, I'm like, somebody should not have been letting this kid say this shit.
I don't want to get into all that. But
Do you feel like you trusted your managers or the people around you too much? I mean, granted, you were a fucking child, so it's like, what were you really gonna?
exactly, like I ain't really know too much. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't really want to speak on that.
Okay. But y'all aren't supposed to be cool because of street shit, right?
I don't want to talk about that either.
Around that time, did you feel like you put too much energy into the Slim Jesus thing, or how did that even begin?
I don't want to speak on that either. But yeah, I ain't speaking on that either.
Really? Trying to leave that in the past?
Yeah, leave that in the past. I don't even really know what that is.
Okay. Okay. So you weren't happy with what they were doing for you, or?
I don't really want to speak on that. I don't want to speak on that.
Okay. Because you got killed in like a nice ass shopping area where you're not supposed to be getting shot at.
I don't really want to speak on too much of the situation, but you could get killed anywhere.
That's Lil Mouse. Let's see how 6ix9ine answers his questions. What's real and what isn't, just let me know. Here's David So on Jeremiah Wonders talking about sensitive comics.
I don't think I've ever like fully dived into like the stand-up comedy realm. I just happened to do stand-up growing up because I wanted to be a really dope stand-up. And then I found YouTube and I switched,
Sure.
I did YouTube instead.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize how comics are a lot more sensitive than they put out to be.
Dude, I mean, that is such an understatement.
I didn't know.
Dude, I think with me working with comics and becoming super close friends with comics over the years, I think that we are actually more sensitive than the average person. Even the people who put up those big walls and stuff like that, I think a lot of them, for the most part, are not Teflon. Like they really, everything is weighing down on them, like the whale with the barnacles underwater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had no fucking clue. And there's obviously, we're not gonna name drop, but like just having a couple of conversations with people, and the conversations after, like, yo, I didn't like the way you did that. I'm like, wait, you're the one that's fucking out here tweeting that people should be able to say whatever they want. Dude. And I'm like, oh, but it doesn't apply to you though.
The old double standard. Well, that's it for this episode. I got one more clip. It's Steve-O and Flavor Flav, and kind of wraps up the whole thing. If you guys liked anything you saw, hit like, hit subscribe, and maybe I'll do some more of these. I'll leave you with this.
What do you call a place where women who have no legs work?
A very flavorful spot.
No. Where the place where women work who have no legs, I don't know what it's called, but it's crawling with pussy.
You got me with that one.
That was to get the thumbnail.
Hey, you got me with that one, man. Hey, the pussy can't do nothing but crawl. It can't walk around. It can't walk around. That shit is definitely crawling with pussy, bro. You're a fucking nut, man. No, you are the jackass that you are, man. And I fucking love you, man. I love you too, all your work. Listen, for future, all of your stunts, may they all go right. Just be careful, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you're doing some dangerous shit with your life. And you're taking a lot of pain, bro. You know what I'm saying? But make sure that you keep your mouth closed when you get shit shot in your face. You know what I'm saying? You keep your mouth closed. You don't want no shit in your mouth, because then you'll be talking shit.